Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we finished up the fourth serial, Marco Polo. What all happened in those last 3 episodes?
Well, if I recall correctly, they made their way finally to the capital city and met the great Kublai Khan. The Doctor almost won the TARDIS back in a game of backgammon, but lost it ultimately. But ultimately they found out that, what was his name? Tegana was the bad guy after all, and he was dealt with, and the Doctor and his companions were allowed to go back to wherever they were going off to, which I'm guessing is Marinus.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that is the title of our next episode. But yeah, I have no idea where they're going. They didn't have a lead-in, which was odd. And
I'll be honest with you, I do not remember the Keys of Marinus at all. I did a little bit of reading, when I saw it, read up on it a little bit, that in fact it was written literally as a mystery because they wanted to be kind of a treasure hunt sort of thing, that they had to find these various pieces to put them together. I don't remember this at all. This, again, 64, probably spring or summer of 64. I have no recollection of this at all.
All right, well, maybe that'll make it more interesting. I mean, there is an aspect to the reaction of watching this for the first time. The difference for you being that you did watch most of these already, but it was just 50 years ago. Almost 60 at this point. So
a half century ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so, and we both know that your memory is not the best, so that should make this even more interesting to rediscover these episodes.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Yeah. Today we are going to be doing the first 3 parts of this episode, and then next week we'll be doing the next 3 parts. And yeah, that's pretty much that. And then the week after that, it looks like we will have just a complete 4-parter, which will be kind of nice. So, yeah. And also these are complete. We have all the footage for it.
Yay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much that. We might as well get right into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go.
Now that's obviously a Nat sort of thing there.
No.
Any radiation?
Teeny tiny TARDIS.
No, he just leave off. The count is hardly reading anything.
It isn't frozen, is it?
No, impossible in this temperature. Besides, it's too warm.
Grandfather, do you think it's safe to go for a swim?
Just said
Oh,
that.
no, not at the moment, child.
No, Susan, don't!
Ian, what is it?
Must be some sort of acid.
It's all right.
Oh, that was her
You've
shoe?
got some more shoes
Yeah.
off the ship, haven't you? Well,
The
go
shoe
put
dissolved.
them on. We'll wait here for you.
Here,
All right.
you'd better take my boots.
I can't put those on. They're much too big for me.
Now, come on. It's better than cutting your feet open on this glass.
All right.
Yeah.
I could go get some shoes. You're not that far from the TARDIS.
All right?
Grandfather!
Sure. Follow the gigantic frog feet.
Alone.
What could possibly go wrong?
Come on. Ian needs his shoes.
See that track along
That is an
there?
interesting design.
Where the acid must have seen. Look at that fantastic building.
Good.
And they have the worst
Good.
peripheral vision
Now perhaps
because
we might learn who it is that uses these strange ships.
they never see this
Anyway,
stuff.
let's go back to the ship and find Susan.
Someone fell for his own Batman trap.
No mortar. Must have been built with tremendous accuracy.
Yes, the Egyptians did the same thing. So did the Indians of Central and Southern America.
Well, for a start, let's make a circuit of this place.
Excellent. Now, I suggest we go different ways and meet back at the furthermost point, which is probably round the corner there somewhere. Off you go now.
Well, that is the worst idea, so let's go ahead and do that.
But yeah, the Egyptian pyramids, no mortar at all. They're just, and the entire square bottom, measured by modern instruments, is off by like less than an inch.
Yes, it was Susan. Come on.
Interesting, he went alone. Up. There he goes.
Sworn I heard her.
We certainly heard something.
See the
Be sure it
shadow
was
in the
Susan, of
background?
course.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
the
sure.
microphone.
Yes, but where's the doctor? I mean, even if he'd
That
been
miniseries
travelling
that I
at
did
half
has
speed,
that
he
same
should have reached
problem.
that far corner by now.
Oh, that was intentional. Oh no.
Why do you protect me?
You're welcome.
I should have thought this place was impregnable. How many of you defended?
How men? I'm alone. Oh, please. Let us release your companions, and then I'll try to explain.
Good idea.
You know, it would be impregnable if you stopped opening the doors.
You must find the keys for me.
Ian, wait a minute.
4 keys, 4 of
The
them.
doctor's miles behind.
Oh,
I don't know about you, but I felt terrible leaving that old man. You seem to be his last hope.
yes. I wish there had been something we could have done for him.
Well, come on, Grandfather.
Coming,
Heavy
child.
rock suddenly moves when she touches it.
Some sort of invisible barrier. What do you make of it, Doctor?
I don't know. There's no substance here.
It was interesting that they just were just ready to leave. No thought.
know we have no choice but this whole... No, I am going to give you a device which will enable you to move from place to place. Oh, really? The principle is much the same as that of your ship. Place that arm on your wrist. And you have only to twist the dial once.
Like this? Barbara!
What? I hope you succeed.
Must be nice when they can just do simple effects like that.
Look, there's blood on it.
Alrighty, that is part 1.
Well, I'm sorry. Very cheesy sets. You know, considering, and again, although we only watched the would you call it the recon of Marco Polo?
Yeah.
The Marco Polo sets were outstanding. You know, this is back to the caveman jungle. You know, I mean, seriously, when Susan put her hand on that rock and the whole thing moved,
Well,
that's just it's disappointing after what we saw with the Marco Polo sets and everything. That's just it's sad.
well, it could also be that, like, maybe that's the only time we're really going to see that particular set. Like, with Marco Polo, they redressed, they had to have redressed a lot of those sets for the different scenes, and they made them all look good. So it's possible that they just don't need a beach after that first episode.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, it is interesting, I will say. It is a little interesting, you know, them going around, they got to find the 4 keys. Well, luckily there's 4 of them. I was kind of curious if maybe they were going to split them up to the 4 different keys, but
Yeah.
it seems like they're all going together.
You would think they wouldn't send Susan after one by herself, because after all, she is supposedly just a teenager.
Yeah. Or whatever the Time Lord equivalent is. So, yeah. And I do like, they can get away with the simplest effects. You know, like, oh, there's an invisible barrier here. Well, that's easy. All you got to do is have them mime it. Yeah. Or even just the, all right, let's go. Boom. Gone. It's easy. So.
Yeah.
And I do actually like, you know, teleportation in sort of this watch thing, which is interesting because they sort of bring that back in modern Doctor Who and call it a vortex manipulator, basically. And although that can travel through time as well. So, of course, at that point, the Doctor doesn't like it. So it's interesting here. He does like it. Oh well. Okay.
All right.
Part 2.
We can't argue now. We must get inside.
Very well, but I say, I'm sure it's a mistake.
Oh, there's the rest of the set for you. This is what they spent the money on.
What a nice little place you got here.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Huh?
Will you get some food for my friends?
It's only been like 30 seconds.
You may be seated.
It's hard to tell if this is supposed to be Greek or Roman.
Well,
The food and everything is more Roman than...
Oh, it's
But the
magnificent.
girls' dresses are almost Greek. And they wouldn't have had turkey. Turkey was a New World food.
Stop.
Our one wish is to fulfill your every need. Have you no wish, no great desire?
Well, perhaps, if I had to choose, a well-equipped laboratory with every conceivable instrument. Yes.
It will be arranged. In the morning when you wake, you will learn everything about morphogen.
could you
Well, we should look forward to that.
just ask for the key?
Even
Then
if you're
leave.
not serious about the laboratory, we're very grateful.
But I am serious. Good night.
Good night.
Did he say Morpheus?
Charming young man. Yes.
Something like
charming.
that.
It's the ancient
The
world's
study
god of
this
sleep.
culture is going to prove very, very fascinating.
Well, it is late at
Oh,
night,
dear
so...
me, I'm tired, you know.
But the whole...
Oh,
The excitement's been too much for Susan, too.
No, you've eaten some kind of food with sleeping drug in it.
You notice that man's eyes?
Now, what about them?
He didn't blink once.
What if you have to roll over?
No!
Barbara, please, don't concern yourself. She's overwrought. I'll deal with it. You stay here.
You imagine that casting call? Need an actor who can't blink.
And you can't go back and do a reshoot. And you can't wear pants either.
One of the women has resisted the power of the mesmerism. She has escaped into the city.
Who placed the discs?
Another bug-eyed monster.
It was the thing I desired most. It's mine.
But why? Why did you want it?
It's mine.
Listen to
She's
me.
the daughter, and that's the key.
Does
That's
the
totally
name
it.
Arbitan mean anything to you?
He sent me here.
Nice call.
I was-
Nailed it.
I can't remember.
Is Arbitan your father?
See, she was smart enough to ask for the key.
Open the
The doctor just
panel.
asked for a lab.
Smack him. Punch him. Come on, Barbara. Ooh. Nicely done.
I must take you to them.
Smack him.
Well,
So,
Turn
she
the
has
table
been
over.
caught.
yeah, just...
You have done well and proved yourself. Kill her. Kill her.
Where are we? Where? Barbara!
I mean, she missed, like, every target, but good enough.
She hit one of them.
One of them.
All right.
There's riots here, too. jungle is a riot.
A riot is an ugly thing. And I think it's about time that we had one.
That's part 2.
The word that comes to mind is plodding. You know, it's. I mean, the idea of searching for the keys seems to be a good one, but it just seems to be. It's like you can see everything coming. So I don't know. Not horribly impressed, but you know.
Well, it's interesting that because that was all just one episode for this city, which is new. They don't normally wrap things up very quickly in the span of one episode. So, on the one hand, it's great that they were able to wrap it up so quickly. On the other hand, it did still kind of feel like filler. And then they sort of, Barbara just grabbed a pitcher, beat all the brains to death, and then we're done. It's a good thing she was able to do that,
But then, I mean, the nice twist was, like you call the girl Sabitha, turns out to be the daughter, and the other guy is a courier. So, I mean, that is certainly very helpful to the storyline. But, it's... I guess it goes to show how quickly these scripts were being produced, and writers didn't have enough time to really flesh these things out.
Yeah.
It just... Despite the fact that this is a Terry Nation script, it's really not very good so far. Now, it'd make it better, let's hope, but not super impressed.
And it's also interesting the fact that we are going to split up now, and it seems like next episode is going to be focusing on just the gang and going through the screaming jungle. So I would imagine it's going to be another episode without the Doctor, but then it seems like the next episode after that will be a Doctor-only episode, and we won't have any of our companions, which would be very interesting. We haven't had an episode like that yet.
Yeah.
So, so let's go ahead and see.
That's
part 3.
Well, didn't you hear it?
There could be animals in this jungle around us.
No, it wasn't anything like that.
Take it easy, Susan, and try and tell us what it was you heard.
Well, look, Susan, whatever it was, it's gone now. I did hear it, Yes.
No one's really in a position to doubt what someone else says at this point.
Ah! Barbara! Barbara! It was alive!
Kill it.
The snake crawling all over me! No, it must have fallen on you from the tree. No, it didn't. It's alive!
Well, see, now that Barbara's had the taste of blood, she wants more.
It's going all around me.
Barbara the warrior.
It couldn't move by itself. You know it couldn't. No. Come on. Over here and help me at the archway.
Yeah, that was pretty good for TV in the 1960s.
You go on like this.
Brains can't just grow eyes and talk, but we saw that, so...
Kind of looked like Gary from SpongeBob.
Yeah.
None shall pass. Obviously Greek and Roman architecture or sculpture, but now you've got a medieval knight.
Oh, it's pretty solid. You'll need something to... I wish I could...
I saw some iron bars in an alcove down there.
Sure, random iron bars in an alcove.
You have an axe.
That's true.
Help me!
Oh, out of the way.
Yeah, is it moving? Like Temple of Doom.
Only Arbitan could set your complete journey.
What have you done with Ian?
Guy sounded like Alec Guinness. The cheapness of the set worked to our advantage.
Oh, help me!
So it's Night of the Living Plants.
I can't move, Ian. I'm too cold.
Barbara, you've got to. We must move.
We're
If we
back in
don't
the
find shelter,
Himalayas.
we don't stand a chance.
Alrighty. That's the first 3 parts.
Well, that was a little bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, not so much because of the action, but it was just better scripted.
Yeah.
And also the set, although, I realize it's just, living jungle sort of thing, but that was, it made more sense than the mesmerizing, whatever that was, Greek, Roman, bizarre thing. So,
Yeah.
anyway, much better. Gives me hope.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, we might as well head into the notes. The first thing I wrote down was the acid. Feels like so long ago that we were at the beach.
Yes.
So, and the entire place surrounded by acid. Interesting concept.
Yeah.
And we also had the Vord.
The Vord.
Who
Coming
are-
up in their mini submarines.
Yeah. And their suits to protect themselves from the acid.
Now, what's weird about that is that if they're inside, why was there such a bizarre, headpiece? I understand the fins on their fingers and toes because obviously there's some kind of, aquatic thing. But, the headpiece made no sense because if they have some kind of extensions like that, that would be very difficult to slip around their head.
Yeah.
No matter how elasticized that rubber was. So I'm supposing, I guess, in Chapter 5 or Chapter 6, whatever, we will find out more about the Vord.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the only thing is that, I understand now going through getting the keys. It's interesting, sends us to different locations. We split up the team for a little while, and we get to do multiple different things rather than just we're going through the caves and everything. So I like that these episodes, this and Marco Polo, we're going to various different locations, but it just seems like they haven't fully explained the Vord. They're just sort of, they're there, they're the bad guys, I guess.
And the one unexplained real thing about them is I was going to say I thought they put the invisible shield around the TARDIS, but that was the guy.
That was the guy. Which was the next thing I wrote down was force field, although I think I misspelled field. Oh well.
I before E.
Yeah, so that's just on my notes forever now. Oh well. But yeah. Now I thought at first perhaps it was the TARDIS that was actually putting up the force field. Because I thought, okay, maybe it's like, the TARDIS wants them to be there, but instead it was the guy whose name neither of us remember clearly. So that was interesting, and again, just the simple effect of just have the 4 of them mime that there's something there. Yeah. Like, well,
Marcel Marceau would be so proud.
That saves some money,
Although, even then, they could have put some kind of little, glow sparkly thing in there, post-production.
Maybe.
Because that, I mean, I don't want to say it was cheesy, but it seemed kind of cheap.
Yeah. Or even, like, if there was, like, a circle in the sand, that would have also been interesting. Just a bit more of a visual cue, I guess. Excuse me. I wrote down the keys, our whole quest for the keys, which is interesting, and all these keys are for the conscience of
Marinus.
Conscience of Marinus, which was something. I don't remember what he was saying about it.
It apparently, it's like what they're doing with Supergirl now, where they're trying to remove temptation and evil and violence and that sort of thing, so that you can have a very harmonious utopian kind of society.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
if I recall correctly.
I think something like that. So, but yeah, because it was something about controlling the mind, so they don't want the Vord to get their hands on it. And what they did originally was just split all the keys up, but now he wants them to find the keys and then destroy the keys, which they haven't been doing that. They've just been finding them.
I think he meant, though, that all 5 of the keys had to be brought back and plugged in and then destroyed.
Maybe.
Again, that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, it might have been that. I wrote down, okay, so the City of Morpheus, was that it?
That sounded like what it was to me, and considering that the whole thing was based on sleep, that would make perfect sense.
It was interesting. It's just odd, because it's like, all right, they got there, it's only been like 30 seconds, but Barbara's already in a new dress with a new hairstyle and everything. It's like, okay, how long has it really been? But they don't really talk about that.
Yeah. And again, I thought it was kind of a red herring that Barbara and Susan and the doctor all ate something. I thought maybe that was what was going to, and then Ian didn't. But then that didn't pan out at all. It turns out to be the disc on the forehead, and Barbara's falls off. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine the food just had something to knock them out, and then they needed to come in and put the things on the forehead, just to, finish the job, basically.
Yeah. But then, that they didn't follow through with that, because if anybody was going to wake up, it would have been Ian, because having not eaten the fruit or whatever it was, that he would be the lightest sleeper. So anyway, it was a little muddled in there, I thought.
Yeah, and when Ian laid down, I was thinking, man, those are so narrow. Like, that is like even more narrow than a twin size bed. So, and then I was like, I was joking, like, oh, what if they roll over? And then that was what happened. She happened to move her head, and the thing fell off. And it's like, okay, that's I've maybe put some chewed bubble gum on there to make sure it stays. So, and also, like, when she was just putting it on, at first I was like, okay, is this some sort of like river Styx? But it was like, well, no, those got to be on the eyes, and there's 2 of them. It's like, these are just on the foreheads, but maybe that's a reference. And it's like, no, it's none of that. It was just a way so that they could keep showing them what they wanted to see, but not what actually was there. Which, how did they see what wasn't there in the first place if they didn't?
Yeah. It again, very muddy.
Yeah.
It could have been cleaned up. But again, if they're cranking out these scripts literally by the week, and I'll be honest with you, I've told you before, I've written a couple of plays, and it's a very painstaking process. I did an adaptation of The Sword and the Stone, basically off of several sources, but basically using was it T.H. White? But the idea of having Arthur discover the sword, take it out, show it to his cousin, show it to his uncle, and then say, oh, wait a minute, here, I'll go put it back. Nobody else can pull it out. I can pull it. That is the way the legend goes, but that's not very dramatic on stage. So, having written the entire second act in about 4 days, I then had to go back. It took me 6 weeks to rewrite the second act, so that the very last thing could be Arthur pulling the sword out of the stone and everybody going, oh, it's the new king. Yeah. So, yes, they don't have that, obviously, that kind of time here. They're just cranking this stuff out week after week after week, and obviously it seems very little time to rewrite. Yeah.
Now, with Sword in the Stone, it could work for a comedy version of Sword in the Stone if he's just looking around, so, this one. All right, go.
But that's the way the legend goes, that when he gets to the tournament, he's forgotten to bring Kay's sword, and Kay needs a sword, and Arthur says, oh, wait a minute, I remember seeing a sword out there, so don't worry, I'll get you one real quick. And he runs back to where the Sword in the Stone is, And not realizing what it is, he just walks over and pulls it out and walks away. And then, of course, Hector and Kay both look at the sword and go, "Where did you get this?" And he goes, "Oh, it was in the stone out there in the courtyard." And they went, "Mm-hmm." So he has to go out and put it back. Kay tries to pull it out, can't. Hector tries to pull it out, he can't. And they go, "All right, we need to be sure." So they call all the knights in and say, "Arthur has pulled the sword from the stone," and they all try it. And then he walks over and picks it up, and they went, "He's the king."
Yeah.
So, but again, what they're doing here is what, they are writing a story that, unfortunately, in some spots is really not very dramatic. If they'd had a couple of weeks to go back and revise that, even that particular section could have been a much more mysterious and much more threatening sort of thing, rather than the plodding little piece that it was.
Yeah. And it could also be that, I would imagine when they bring in the writer and be like, all right, you need to basically write a story with a certain amount of episodes in it too. Because I was thinking, like, okay, we have, do we have 2 of the keys now? 2 of the 4 keys? Or is it...
Yes, we have 2 of the 4, and then the old man, Altoid, whatever his name was, who has the original. He's still got the 1. So they've theoretically got 3 of the 5.
Okay. And then we already know the Doctor is on his way, so that could be 1 episode. And then, but this is...
What was that next episode called?
I don't remember.
That was right there at the end.
Yeah. Look for it.
This wind's going right through me. We must...
Snows of Terror.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's where the Doctor must be.
I'm too cold. Barbara, you've got to. We must move.
Yeah, because...
If we don't find shelter, we don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
The Snows of Terror. Okay.
Which...
probably a recycled set from, like you said, Marco Polo.
Yeah. Which, that's the thing, is that the Doctor should be there because he jumped ahead 2 instead of just 1.
Yeah.
So, technically, he should already be there. Maybe next episode we'll be going back to watch that from his perspective. Or he just shows up and is like, I already have the key, now let's try to get out of here. So we have 3 of the 5 keys. So, and we have 3 more episodes left. So yeah, I do imagine that each writer is brought in as like, okay, you have to fill this amount of episodes. Like, and I also know when we watched Edge of Destruction, that was only 2 episodes. And there was apparently, someone mentioned this in the comments, like there was something going on behind the scenes where it's like, all right, we just need 2 filler episodes basically. So they just wrote 2 episodes, and, it happened, later on they brought that stuff back with, the TARDIS actually being alive, and that plays a major part in the whole story. But at the time, it was just 2 episodes they had to write quickly, basically. Yeah. And they wrote it where, they didn't really, it wouldn't need a big budget. It's like, all right, we're sticking with our 4 actors, our 4, lead actors, and we're staying on the TARDIS. So no new actors, no new sets, just this for 2 episodes. Should give us a bit of a break as we, tried to, as someone was, writing 7 episodes of Marco Polo. So, let's see. I wrote down the brains. They were interesting.
Now, and I've mentioned this before, that is so incredibly similar to something that would happen 3 or 4 years later in Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. They go to a planet where, again, the people have evolved so far that the only thing left of them is their brain in glass jars. But on top of that, it's very similar to the whole Dalek and Thal thing, in that there were people who were being kidnapped from all over the galaxy and brought here to play in gladiatorial games. And the only, emotions, experiences that the brains could have is watching the gladiators try to kill each other. And so, Kirk comes in and says, hey, wait a minute, I'll change the game here. You put out your best champion, and we'll put out our best 3, and if we lose, we'll become your Thals or Thralls or whatever it was. Again, the sound of the name was very similar. But if we win, you have to give these people their freedom, and then use your intelligence to guide them to create civilizations of their own, where they're not just mindless Stone Age type people. So that, again, that's very similar to something here. And that whole Greek thing, Greek or Roman, whatever it was, again, there's a Star Trek episode where out in space they encounter what appear to be a race of alien beings who had once come down to Earth, and the prehistoric Greeks had assumed that they were gods, and so you had Apollo and Athena and all the rest of them. So it's kind of interesting. And again, I don't know that Gene Roddenberry was a fan of Doctor Who, but it certainly seems like there's a lot of influence. People must have known some of this. And then even, what is it, George Lucas or Steven Spielberg, whoever wrote The Last Crusade. I mean, that whole thing about, the old man guarding, you finally come at last, he chose unwisely sort of thing. It's just very reminiscent, and it's glad to see that perhaps some of this did ultimately filter through the science fiction community and maybe have inspired stuff, 20 and 30 years down the line.
Yeah. Well, and also, at the beginning you were talking about the original beach set that we had, and you were saying it looked very cheap. And, when Susan accidentally knocks into one of the rocks, it moves. And so that got me thinking of Plan 9. And then as they kept going, it's like, oh, look at the brains in a jar. And it's like, that also reminds me of Plan 9. So,
yeah.
Now, Plan 9, that was 1959, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so that came first. It almost makes me wonder if maybe you can even go back to that as more original inspiration. I mean, you can keep going back until you get to the first sci-fi movie that was ever made, whatever that is. I don't know what it is, but if you can put it in the comments, and maybe one day we could react to that. It's probably a silent film. So.
I'm sure that, there were versions of Frankenstein and Nosferatu and things like Metropolis, yeah. RUR, Rossum's Universal Robots. But yeah, see, from growing up in the 50s, I remember a lot of those. The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Next Voice You Hear, Forbidden Planet got to be one of the all-time best because it's based on a Shakespearean play. And so you have basically, The Tempest set, 3,000 years in the future on a faraway planet, and you have, the characters of Prospero and Ariel and Caliban and Miranda and all the rest of them simply transformed into this science fiction story. It's really, really good. If you've never seen it, Forbidden Planet, highly recommend it.
And I could also say something similar to that, and I told you about this morning, is the anime adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo also puts it 3,000 years in the future. It's surprisingly accurate, though. Go watch that if you haven't seen that. So, we're just full of references today, apparently.
We're full of something.
Yeah.
All right. Where were we?
Let's see. The brains. It was interesting that... I don't want to say like Barbara figured it out all on her own. It's like, it wasn't much to figure out. She just, wasn't put under the spell like the three of them, and then, she grabbed a pitcher and beat them all to death, and that was it. But it was something. I guess it was a good moment for her. So, let's see. I wrote down Split Up, which, yes, after that, it is a split up. Well, okay, yeah. We split up. The Doctor goes off on his own, which I am hoping that next episode it's just the Doctor. I'll be very curious to see what an episode is like where it's just him. And then we also split up in the group when Susan and the other two, they went off to the next area, and then we got Ian and Barbara by themselves for a little while.
And I have to say, the living jungle was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for using the word interesting. We use that too much, I know. No comments, please.
There's no getting past it.
But, considering how, how bad the frogmen looked, I thought that was a little bit more threatening because... like people always said of Alfred Hitchcock, and then later sometimes Steven Spielberg and even M. Night Shyamalan, it's the stuff you don't see that can become even scarier. So you just see one little bitty tendril of plant creeping up towards Susan's leg, and then cut to her screaming, and you kind of in your own mind put together what's going on down there. And then was it Barbara E. had come over and literally just smash it with a rock.
Yeah.
There should have been some goo there, but other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Which they did that like several times too, because at one point, the guy that doesn't blink was attacking Barbara, and the daughter just found, I don't know what she found, but whatever she found, she just broke over that guy's head. So
just a little stool or something.
Yeah, there was a lot of bashing in these episodes.
I would also, and somebody can probably look this up, we'll probably look it up, the jar that was labeled DE302. All right, that's obviously, 3 elements. I don't know what D is.
Yeah.
Or E, but obviously O2 is oxygen, H2O sort of thing. So we'll probably go look up and see what DE302 was.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to be in some kind of powdered form.
Right. And I suppose I didn't write it down, but I was thinking about this, talking about the man that doesn't blink, which after they lost control of him, I was curious if he was going to blink. And I never saw it. I was like, come on, just do it one time so I really know that you're free.
Right. That's a rare talent.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sure once you saw that he wasn't blinking, it's like I, for a while he was on screen, tried to see if I could not blink for as long as he wasn't on the screen, and that can get very painful because your eyes get dry. The whole point of blinking is to keep your eyes moisturized.
Yeah. See, I have the opposite effect. When someone says, that person, they aren't blinking, I blink more. It's just like, no, I can't do it. I can't. If I try, I blink more. It sucks. So he was just an interesting character all around, because you have the not blinking, and then that costume, man just was not wearing pants. It was very weird.
Well, again, though, if it's supposedly Greek or Roman, remember, they wore tunics. And, in fact, again, it's been a while since I've taught world history. One of the reasons that they thought the Gauls and the Germanians were barbarians is because they did wear pants. Obviously, somebody who is sophisticated, somebody who is a Roman or part of the Roman Empire, we wear the tunics and we wear the togas and the robes.
Yeah.
And you people wear pants.
Yeah, and that's... Well, okay, but that's fine. This man was showing a lot of leg. It was distracting, and I was trying to look if he was gonna blink. It was all around a lot. All right. It was too much. So, let's see. We already talked about the jungle, and I wrote down the jar. I like that there was, it sort of fools you a bit. It's like he says all these numbers and letters, and then you immediately go to the safe, but neither of them realized, wait, he's talking about an element, because that's the particular jar he hid the thing in. And then it just happened, it had nothing to do with that safe. That safe was just there as a red herring. So I did like that. But that is pretty much all I wrote down. You got anything else?
No, again, it was kind of, I think one of the more unusual things about that the jungle, the screaming jungle, is that aside from the jungle outside, you have a very, what appeared to be Mesoamerican deity, that grabbed Barbara and Ian. But on the inside, there was the, Black Knight from Monty Python with the gigantic halberd or axe or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you still have some Greek statues or Roman statues or whatever. So it's like the mixing of time periods seemed to be very, very strange.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's the interesting thing too, because we're on another planet. So, did they have a Rome? Did they have a medieval Europe or Central America? It's like, did they have all of that? But they don't look particularly alien, except the brains. They're the only things that look alien. So, and even the original guy, still don't remember his name. The original guy, was wearing these monk robes. So it's like, all right, there is a lot of different stuff you're using here.
Yeah.
So it does make me wonder, like, maybe they're stockpiling props, you know? Like, you know, we'll have these, so we'll do an episode with Greece, we'll do an episode with, you know, the Middle Ages, we'll have, you know, maybe if we need it again, we'll have a monk's robe. So, you know.
That does remind me, though, again, a later Star Trek episode, they land on a planet that has essentially paralleled Earth, but stopped at the Roman Empire. You know, the Romans are able to develop technology where, you know, they don't fall to the barbarians, and, you know, this is Rome, and you can imagine what the Roman Empire would be like after 2,000 years of advanced technology and civilization.
Yeah.
And even the one where they accidentally, somebody had left behind a book about the Chicago mobs of the 1920s, and this planet had literally evolved into nothing but a set of organized mobs who were, you know, always trying to, you know, they all talk with, you know, like Chicago and Jersey accents, and they all had submachine guns that were going to rub each other out. So it's a nice little thing to do, but like this, when you put, you know, Roman and Greek and Middle Ages monks and guys with halberds and, you know, black helmets, and it's like, it's a little jarring. You know, let's stick with one motif and just kind of go from there. Make some variations on it, but it's a little distracting.
Yeah. Well, and also just because the most alien thing are the Vords in this. And honestly, that's just because they happen to have that particular style of acid suit. So,
now that I'm thinking about it, the headdress of the Vord rubber suit almost has kind of an Egyptian look to it, except for the fins there. But, you know, that thing in the front and the kind of flattened off headpiece.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the next 3 episodes.
Yep. Next time, we'll be finishing off the Keys of Marinus. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. You got anything else?
I'm good.
All right. Then we will see you guys next time. We're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films. See you then. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon and follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.